Hey everybody, I'm the Ranting Monkey, and today we're going to talk about little dicks and big clits. But first we have to deal with a couple of elephants in the room. I had considered talking about these two stories after the video I'm going to respond to, but I put it up front because it's been my experience that you guys respond to the last subject I talk about, and I do find that video more interesting than these two stories, which have already been talked to death. First up, last night Milo Yiannopoulos made his first appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher. Kinda disappointing really, both the interview and the fact that it took Maher so long to get him on. Honestly, I was very underwhelmed. If this was my first impression of Milo, I would never bother looking at him again. I thought Maher was horrible. The interview was just shit from his end. But Milo tried to be way too cute. He'd have been better served if he came out with his intellectual stuff rather than the "oh look how cute I am" bullshit. As for the overtime part of the show where Larry Wilmore told Milo to fuck off, it was really kinda lame. He offered no substance and it looked like he'd been practicing it in the mirror all week. Looking at the entire show, it was just a waste of time for everyone involved, especially the viewers. And of course the other topic is PewDiePie being labeled a Nazi. I went over this more in my live stream I did with Scribe and Ferg. That live stream is going to be coming down from this channel, but it will be available on the live stream channel. We had a pretty good chat, you should check it out. To sum up my opinion, PewDiePie is no Nazi. The press just has a hard-on for anybody making it big online because it exposes how overpaid and unnecessary they are, since most of them have the charisma of a shit-covered stick. They can't make it in a digital world, so they decided to take a shot at the top guy over some bad jokes. I don't think anyone will lose their job over the shitty reporting, but I do find it fascinating how many people were surprised by this, given that the press has been lying about people for as long as I can remember. I was more shocked it took them this long to go after a major YouTube player. Okay, let's move on to our video. Meet Pigeon. I don't know what the fuck Pigeon is. This isn't a case of a non-binary what the fuck. He/she, whatever, is intersex. What is intersex? Well, that's the question. Pigeon took to the streets to ask people how much they know about it. You can play along too.
Alright, gang in Buzzfeed right here.
She's so dope, yo. Yes, she just said ganging. And yes, that's about the level of intelligence you should expect throughout. This is not a scientific survey. For the unfamiliar, ganging is a term used by upper and middle class white chicks a decade ago to pretend they were down with the brown. If you ever use such a phrase unironically, you should be required by law to start every conversation with, "Hi, I'm really, really white." Fucking ganging.
What's good, everybody? My name's Pigeon. We out here in Manhattan talking to people, trying to figure out what they know about intersex.
I realize this might sound funny coming from a guy who not only is talking to you through a cartoon monkey, but who also answers to that moniker. But I have trouble taking somebody named Pigeon seriously. He or she seems like a really nice person, but they act like I would imagine somebody named Pigeon would behave. A little bit ditzy and laughing way too much.
Would you like to be in my Buzzfeed video? I'm just here asking people in New York what they know about intersex, and then it's just fun and I give you candy after. Okay, come here. My name's Pigeon, I'm from Chicago, and I was born intersex. Have you heard that term before?
No, I haven't.
What do you think an intersex person is?
I already knew the answer to this because if you talk about trans issues, somebody will eventually ask you about it. It's a bunch of real health issues dressed up in one bullshit SJW package to make it seem like a much larger issue. It lends legitimacy to the growing moronic notion that there are more than two biological sexes. Let's see the Buzzfeed answer.
Intersex is an umbrella term for a person born with sex traits that don't easily fall into either or category of what society defines as usually as male or female. So kind of like a mixture or a blending.
That's not exactly true. For example, gerbil dickitis, commonly known in the medical community as micropenis, is a part of this umbrella despite having no feminine traits. It is true that sex reassignment was once a recommended treatment for micropenis, but it wasn't because the genitals were ambiguous. If you want to save yourself the horror, a picture of a micropenis looks like somebody photoshopped the head of a dick directly onto the nutsack, removing the shaft entirely. It still looks like a tiny dick. It doesn't resemble a vag or a clit. There's also a condition women can have with a medical sounding name that I'm not even going to try to say, but it's also known as MRKH syndrome. This itself is an umbrella term, as the symptoms can range from having no cervix or ovaries to having no vaginal opening. I saw a picture today and my mind is still not quite sure how to wrap itself around what I saw. If you just glance at it, it looks like a normal vag, but if you really look, there's no opening there. The clit is there, the labia is there, everything you would expect is there except the hole. Both of these conditions fall under the intersex umbrella, but neither of them is confused with the opposite sex.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. Intersex people are as common as natural-born redheads. True or false?
Well, true, but only because of how many things are now considered intersex.
True. It is. Intersex is 1.7% of the human population, and so is redhead.
Not exactly. When you add up all the conditions classified as intersex, the number is 1.7 to 1.8 depending on the source. Redheads are estimated to make up between 1 and 2% of the population. But that's close enough not to argue over it. When the argument comes in is when we go back to things like micropenis and MRKH syndrome. If you remove the intersex conditions where sex isn't anyway ambiguous, leaving only the ones where there is no clear male or female, it drops to less than 1%. It's estimated to be around 0.08%, which is why social justice has added in all those other conditions. When you're trying to convince people of a third sex, nearly 2% sounds a lot more convincing than less than 1.
Did you think intersex was less common or more common?
Well, before I thought it was less common, now I think it's more common.
That's why we out here.
Oh, thanks for reinforcing my last point, Pidgey. You're good people.
Next question. True or false? Intersex and transgender are the same exact thing.
False.
I would say true. So intersex is more about the body and the biology, and transgender is more about the gender and how your gender identity is. Okay. But intersex people can be trans if they so decide.
If they so decide? Oh, you mean trans-trenders. Well, yeah, anybody can be one of those. Just turn off your brain and insist people call you some ridiculous set of pronouns so you can feel special. Transgenders don't get to decide. They don't make the choice to feel out of place in their body. And it's kind of fucked up for you to be so flippant about it. But then it's fucked up for trans-trenders to wear trans as an outfit, so you're right in line with the SJW fucktardery.
True or false? All intersex people are LGBT identified.
False.
True. True for me, but not for all intersex people. So, you can be straight and still be intersex, but you can also be LGBT.
This one is just kind of a mindfuck. Those who aren't clearly male or female are the bisexuals of the biological world. What I mean by that is, they're neither straight nor gay. They can't be gay because they don't have a clearly defined sex, but they can't be straight because they don't have a clearly defined sex. Now, a guy with a micropenis could be into dudes, so that would be gay. This is another one of those cases where it depends entirely on which condition under this retardation umbrella we're talking about.
True or false? Intersex and hermaphrodite is a term that should and could be used interchangeably.
Yes, they can be if you're talking about a hermaphrodite. If you're talking about a woman without a vaginal opening, then no.
Yes. Actually, intersex people used to be called hermaphrodites, but today it's considered like a slur.
No. Hermaphrodites were called hermaphrodites. It is and was a specific condition where people are born with an innie and an outie. Hermaphrodite is a scientific term. It's not a goddamn slur. This is one of the reasons you fucking SJWs piss me off so much. You're redefining the language, and it's not based on anything more than your goddamn feelings. Most of these conditions were identified and given their own label in the early to mid 20th century.
What's the other word for slur?
It's offensive.
Offensive. An offensive, outdated term, and it's just not physically possible in human beings anyway, so it was a misnomer.
This part is really funny if you actually know the etymology of the word. It comes from Greek mythology. Hermes and Aphrodite had a child named Hermaphroditus. Now, depending on which story you hear, he was either born with or acquired male and female traits, genitals. Mythology generally comes from people trying to explain things that were unnatural to them or that they didn't understand. In this case, somebody with male and female genitalia. What Pigeon is talking about when she says humans can't actually be hermaphrodites is how it is used in other species. Plant and other animals are often hermaphroditic in that they either have both sets of genitals for their reproduction, or they can actually switch sexes. In humans, it's considered a deformity. Humans not being able to be a plant-like hermaphrodite doesn't mean we can't have human hermaphrodites, especially when that's where the fucking word comes from. I'm not picking on intersex people here. I think what they go through is horrible, and I have no problem trying to remove the stigma from it. But this kind of shit is just ridiculous. This is not about removing stigma. This is about making us have a third sex so that we can embrace all the stupid social justice shit. You have people like Michael Rowlands who made a video about how intersex proves there's more than two genders. Now, far more annoying than some moron spouting off shit he shouldn't even be talking about is the fact that this is leaking into our universities. Instead of money going to research for prevention and cures, that money is instead going to gender studies. Social justice warriors are halting scientific progress and slowing society by trying to debate things that don't need debated. Biology is pretty much settled. There's things we can still learn, but male and female, we know those exist. We know that the intersex are deformities. They're not a normal part of life. They're not some new species or new sex. It's no more new sex than a man being born without an arm is a new species of man. The people who suffer from intersex conditions would be far better off if each of those conditions stood on its own, rather than being put under some giant umbrella so social justice warriors can argue that trenders aren't actually just a bunch of shitheads. That's going to wrap up this one. If you like what I do here, don't forget to share it with all your friends. I'm the Ranting Monkey, and I will see you next time.
Alright, gang in Buzzfeed right here.
Your life makes me sad.